In 1993, St. Lucia's population was estimated at 148,000, and according to the UN's International Homicide Database, there were less than a dozen homicides that year. Fast forward 30 years, the population is at 180,000, and 75 people were killed in 2023. How and why we got to this point demands scientific, legal, political, economic, and social analysis. This documentary unravels the anatomy of this violent year, examining the systemic failures, the community impact, the relentless cycle of retaliation that turned neighborhoods into battlefields, from the surge in gun violence to the heart-wrenching loss faced by countless families. We seek to understand the root causes and the urgent need for effective solutions. As we journey through this devastating timeline, we will confront the stark realities of crime, law enforcement's challenges, and the enduring hope for peace. Join us as we investigate the forces that led to this bloodshed, the lives forever changed, and the urgent need for solutions in a year that St. Lucia will never forget. This is the story of 2023. The bloodiest year in history. They sat at the annual New Year's press conference, the team of men and women charged with the management of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. The commissioner was flanked by her deputies, Wayne Shalry and Dr. Mashamas Seeley, and her assistant commissioners, Luke De Freitas, Albert Shalry, and Elvis Thomas. The commissioner carried her usual school principal smile, but the news she brought was no laughing matter. Journalists watched as Corporal 508 Travis Mathre relayed the grim statistics that 2023 was the bloodiest in the history of St. Lucia. He told the familiar sad story that the police were only able to solve 23% of the murders in 2023, and the commissioners acted as the backup choir members, singing to the tune of never-ending sorrow for countless St. Lucian families. But this press conference made one thing pellucid. The police can police. They cannot stop crime. And so, to analyze the anatomy of bloodshed, gunshots, communities under siege, and the knee-jerk reaction, we must take a comprehensive look at what happened in 2023, which caused 75 people to die, 3 by blunt force trauma, 9 by sharp objects, 1 by strangulation, 58 by gunshots, and 4 at the hands of the police. We will also soak in the impact on families, the response from central government, the solve rate by law enforcement, and the work of the violence interrupters on a quest to reduce St. Lucia's murder rate.
No!
2023 was the year of bloodshed in St. Lucia. As soon as the fireworks and New Year's celebrations ended, tragedy struck the tight-knit community of Tuapiton. Dead was Serafina Stacy Stephen, a 42-year-old single mother. On the morning of January 3rd, Serafina's young son sought assistance from the neighbor when his mother failed to be awoken from her slumber. Her body showed marks of violence. The post-mortem examination determined that Serafina Stephen had died by strangulation. Investigators were dogmatic about this investigation. It took over 15 months of diligent inquiries, but on March 7, 2024, the police charged 60-year-old Lawrence Dupre, alias Joy, for the murder of Serafina Stephen. When the emergency line at the Grosley Fire Station rang at 10:32 p.m. on Saturday, January 7th, the caller was frantically seeking the assistance of first responders to rush to Degazon Grand Riviere. On arrival, EMTs met 21-year-old Ray J. Modeste of Montsepa, riddled with penetrating wounds and lying on the ground unresponsive. At approximately 11 p.m., doctors pronounced Ray J. dead. To date, No one has been arrested for this killing. Date, January 19th, 2023. Location, the Bardini Jackmel Cemetery. Activity, burial of Dylan Philogen. Eyewitnesses recount seeing two unmasked men ride up to the funeral procession on a scooter. Then 6 shots rang out. When the smoke cleared, Cuthbert Albert, aka Coffee, lay in a pool of blood. The Jackmel community has been plagued with an ongoing feud and retaliatory killings, with this death at a funeral leaving the community in a state of terror. Cuthbert Albert's shooters remain unknown. At 78 years, Marcelina Alexis had lived a long, full life. The grandmother from Massad Grosley had lived here, a stone's throw away from the Boys Training Center, a rehabilitation house for troubled male juveniles. The sense of safety was brutally shattered on the afternoon of January 20th, when Mrs. Alexis was found lifeless on the floor of her home, with a knife lodged in her neck. In an unexpected turn of events, the mother of a ward at the Boys Training Center made a shocking claim. The grieving mother, struggling with her own emotions, called into question why her son, entrusted to the care of the BTC, was allowed to abscond without notice. 15-year-old Dale Mathre was charged with murder and has been remanded to the Boys Training Center, the same facility he escaped to commit the crime. We are left with one burning question: can the BTC, once a beacon of hope, regain the trust of the community it serves? And more importantly, can it ensure the safety of those in its care? The Royal St. Lucia Police Force has been plagued with allegations of extrajudicial killings stemming from 13 civilians who were killed by police during the ill-fated Operation Restore Confidence. This police offensive took a criminal and sinister turn when an alleged police hit list surfaced and several of these people were killed by members of the Special Task Force. Since 2011, the number of fatal shootings has seen a 42% drop. On February 11, 2023, Eric Thomas was celebrating his 22nd birthday. He and his close friends were out partying at Empire nightclub. But as the night progressed, reports of a disturbance began to circulate.
When I read a little like in my mother lying on the road with one in the leg, so then I to talk to him to have him there with one to let him know one with him. Then the other in, he took him in, right by you there, right? And then I tell the other, but other one he don't look already. The more you want to have to arrest him. You let the other tell me, like, move there, like, right? And then he only one, you might tell me, if I want my too.
Family members are often viewed with skepticism as witnesses in police-involved shootings due to their emotional involvement, potential bias, and the possibility of their judgment being clouded by stress or trauma related to the incident. Their close relationship with the victim can influence their recollections, leading to unintentional bias or distorted testimonies. Additionally, their perspective might be limited, especially if they were not direct witnesses to the event, and external pressures, such as media attention, can further impact their accounts. While not inherently unreliable, their testimony should be carefully scrutinized and need validation with objective evidence to ensure accuracy during the investigation. At about 9 p.m. on February 13th, Candy Tiso had just completed his shift here at Wasco's Dennery Water Treatment Plant. What was supposed to be a mundane Monday night devolved into a drive-by, hospitalization, and death. There were 2 other men at the Ridgeford Junction when Candy Tiso was fatally shot. One was injured, and the other fled into the nearby bushes, unharmed. To date, Candy Tison's killers roam free. Chakaby was a product and character of Groseley, always guitar in hand and a musical rendition strumming. He was a regular performer at the Groseley Friday night street party. On February 13th, his body was found floating in the Rodney Bay Marina with multiple stab wounds around his neck area. To date, the police have made no headway in the murder of 59-year-old Frank Eric Constantine, aka Chakaby of Groseley. When we return, a grandmother is shot, a grandfather is shot, and a toddler is shot 8 times. "2023 will be regarded as the bloodiest year in St. Lucia's history, with the town of Vieux Fort being the murder capital. Gang rivalry, reprisal killings, deep-seated and long-standing feuds would grip the town. The first killing that ignited the murder fuse was the slaying of 21-year-old Dylan Harrow of Daremont, Vieux Fort. He was on his way home after visiting a neighborhood shop for a bit of gambling. His routine walk home would be his last. Dylan was ambushed and shot twice in the torso. This first murder in Vieux Fort in 2023 left many speculative questions. Was it an opportunistic robbery with the assailants looking to steal the day's earnings from Dylan, or was it a targeted killing with robbery as a diversion? To date, one suspect has been arrested and released. However, no one has been charged. On February 22nd, St. Lucia celebrates its independence from Britain. It was a time to reflect on the strides of the nation under the theme "Du vent ensemble," one people shaping our destiny. The country united with festivities in nearly every community. However, multiple incidents of gun violence marred the day's festivities, resulting in the loss of 4 lives. The victims? Kevin St. Hall of Jacmel Ancillary, Denzel Joseph of Cantonment Vieux Fort, Kareem McFarlane of Bruceville Vieux Fort, and Nigel George of Paybush Babono.
I doesn't hide, Kevin. A murderer is, you understanding that, man, doggy? And stop messaging my phone, doggy. Stop messaging fellas' phone, yes. I fed up all the time. I just holding it inside. I fed up of you all now there for the time. Kevin.
So what you telling me there, dog?
Kevin. For the why I telling you for the time, for the time they win war, just take the.
It would be Kevin who would be lying in a pool of blood after being shot here at the Soufre gas station on February 22nd. It is believed that the Jacmel gangster was followed down here by Giovanni Pierre and Seth Sampson from the rival Marigo gang. Kevin was executed and his 2 assailants fled on a small fishing vessel. They were intercepted by the Marine Police, and both men have been charged for the slaying of Kevin St. Hall. In a shocking turn of events, what began as a picturesque independence celebration ended in tragedy at Sandy Beach. Denzel Joseph and his girlfriend had joined the festive round the island ride, culminating their day at a lively beach party. As the evening's music and festivities reached their peak, an abrupt series of gunshots plunged the area into chaos, dispersing the crowd in panic. Amidst the turmoil, Denzel was found grievously wounded, slumped against a vehicle with a firearm ominously nearby, although it later disappeared. Simultaneously, Kareem McFarlane was rushed to St. Jude Hospital by friends who left before police could question them. Both men succumbed to their injuries, with the circumstances of the shooting shrouded in mystery. No arrests have been made, leaving a community in mourning and a night of celebration marked by unanswered questions and the stark reality of the vulnerability to sudden violence. In a dramatic turn of events along the Bexon Highway, a crime scene initially under forensic examination became the backdrop of a tragic police-involved shooting on Independence Day. This incident unfolded when law enforcement officers were compelled to employ deadly force against a civilian who failed to comply with the directives. In a disconcerting twist, this crime scene had a connection to the prior shooting incident at the same vicinity, creating a complex and unsettling backdrop. The rider, Nigel George, sustained a gunshot injury to the leg and was later pronounced dead at the OKEU hospital. His female pillion rider was also injured in this incident. But was the force used by the police reasonable given the circumstances surrounding this incident? Under Chapter 32, Heading Barriers, Section 3, a police officer is not liable for any loss or damage resulting to any vehicle or for any injury to the driver or any other occupant of such vehicle as a result of the driver of such vehicle failing to obey any police officer acting under the provisions of subsection 2. By the 28th of February 2023, 12 people were killed in St. Lucia, 1 by strangulation, 2 by stabbing, 7 by firearms, and 2 were killed by members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. March 5th, 2023, 32-year-old Casey Montoute, operator of minibus M496, was navigating the windy roads of Foisseau-Babonneau on his way home from the day's hustle, unaware of the sinister plot unfolding around him. In a shocking act of violence, unknown assailants opened fire, targeting Casey with deadly accuracy, causing him to lose control of the bus. As the minibus careened into a wall, the assailants were undeterred. They continued their assault, firing additional rounds at Casey, who was already slumped over the steering wheel. Although some believe it may have been a case of mistaken identity, the exact motive remains unclear. Update. On Friday, July 5th, 2024, detectives from the Major Crime Unit formally cautioned and charged 40-year-old Gunnar Maximin, alias Genry, for causing the death of Casey Montoute. With this tragic incident, the homicide toll in St. Lucia had risen to 13, serving as a grim reminder of the challenges law enforcement face in maintaining public safety. March 9th, 2023 was a Thursday. It was a watershed, or rather, a bloodshed day for the town of Vieux Fort, as 3 separate incidents of execution-style killings would rock the town and spark off a reprisal killing spree which would go on for more than a year unabated. 3 individuals lost their lives in a span of under 2 hours. The first incident unfolded at the Vieux Fort Fisheries Complex, where 28-year-old Dylan Baster was fatally shot in the torso, neck, and head by 2 masked gunmen while at the fisheries canteen. The attackers also inadvertently injured a 9-year-old boy with a stray bullet to his face. Shortly after, the violence claimed the life of 62-year-old Rufus Stephen, alias Brico, a well-known figure in the Vieux Fort underworld. Brico was gunned down close to his home in Bruceville, also known as Shantytown, while cycling along this footpath. Police charged Nicholas Joseph for Brico's murder. Cruelly, moments after Nicholas Joseph allegedly shot Brico, Brico's grandson Arenato Sommer, aka Toto, would execute Nicholas's mother, 59-year-old Lorraine Severy, on Clark Street in Vieux Fort. Arenato Sommer was arrested and charged for this murder. The impact of the violence reached far beyond the loss of lives, forcing schools and businesses to close prematurely. Residents and business owners were left grappling with the question of how a once violence-free community became a battlefield. The night of Friday 10th March 2023 was marred by another eruption of deadly gunfire, taking more lives in its wake. 2 men, 59-year-old Sylvanus Joseph, also known as Seaboy, and 47-year-old Dexter Vitalis, alias Marion of Westside Bay, Viewfort, tragically lost their lives while hanging out at this bar. Sylvanus died as a result of multiple gunshot wounds, while Dexter died as a result of a gunshot wound to his chest. It is worth noting that the victims of these recent attacks were not violent offenders, but rather mild-mannered middle-aged members of the community. Concerned citizens expressed their disbelief that such violence could befall individuals who were known for their honesty and respect for others. Sylvanus Senqua was the father of one of the warring gangsters, and the other was suspected to be collateral damage when the gunman pounced to exact vengeance. In a tragic continuation of violence, the community of Bluesville was rocked by another senseless act of violence merely 2 hours after a preceding incident. Marcus Shalry was fatally shot in his yard in what appeared to be a targeted execution. Shalry was the father of Marvin Joseph, a reputed member of the notorious gang Death Trap 300. With the arrival of dawn, the tranquil silence was once again violently disrupted by the sound of gunfire, tragically ending the life of 56-year-old Eustace Rowland, the neighborhood tailor residing on Martin Luther King Street. Known for his peaceful demeanor and lack of involvement in any criminal dealings, Rowland succumbed to a savage assault that inflicted deadly wounds to his head and body. Marvin Joseph, known for his connection to the criminal underworld through his family, became the prime suspect, hinting at a vendetta as the likely reason behind the attack. The night before his ultimate demise, Rowland had dismissed his son's urgent pleas to vacate their home, fearing retaliatory violence was imminent. Rowland's steadfast refusal to abandon his residence underscored a tragic defiance, ultimately leading to his fatal encounter. This chain of violence not only underscores the deep-seated issues plaguing the community, but also the personal tragedies that unfold, leaving a trail of grief and unanswered questions in their wake. On the evening of March 16, 2023, the Balata community was rocked by a tragic incident that claimed the life of 37-year-old Emran Felix, known as DJ Nasty. Felix was involved in a deadly altercation with 46-year-old Benjamin James of Castries that led to him being fatally stabbed. Despite being rushed to the OKEU hospital with a stab wound to the heart, Felix succumbed to his injuries, leaving his family and friends in mourning. Marietta Felix, Emran's mother, is struggling to come to terms with the sudden loss of her son.
As soon as I reach here, I just talk to my daughter. I go in the room. I say, I go and sleep. She say, "Missy, mommy, you going to sleep already?" Yes, but I tired. I have to go get up early tomorrow morning to go in town. She say, "Why, mommy, not even talking to me?" I say, "Son, I tired." As soon as I go in my bedroom, I just put my bag there. I hear she screaming. I say, "What am to you screaming like that?" I just run outside. What am to the children? Nothing, mommy. And you screaming like that? Say, "Mommy, they kill him, man. Mommy, they kill him, man. Man, I just live in town. I come up, they kill him, man. They kill him, man, yet."
Police often solve crimes involving knives and other instruments faster than those committed with firearms due to the nature of the evidence left behind. Knives and similar tools are more likely to retain physical evidence such as fingerprints, DNA from blood or skin cells, and distinctive marks on the victims or surroundings that can directly link an assailant to the crime. Additionally, such weapons are usually used at close range, increasing the likelihood of witnesses or surveillance capturing the incident. In contrast, gun crimes can be committed from a distance, making it harder to identify perpetrators, and firearms are easy to dispose of or alter, for example, by changing the barrel or removing serial numbers, further complicating the tracing process. The immediacy and tangibility of evidence from crimes involving knives, therefore, often leads to swifter investigative conclusions. And so, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force had the evidence to charge Benjamin James of Lama Road, Castries, with Emran Felix's murder. On June 1, 2013, 46-year-old George Montoot was shot dead on Hospital Road. Junior Cherubin, alias Raga, was subsequently charged with aiding and abetting Montoot's murder, leading to his imprisonment. After serving his sentence, Cherubin was released back into the community. The cycle of violence came full circle for Raga on March 19, 2023 at around 7:20 p.m. when gunfire erupted in Banans Bay. The incident claimed the lives of 32-year-old Tonio Elite, known as Zepon, and Junior Cherubin alias Raga was now 53 years old. Both men hailing from Hospital Road and Mount Fortune respectively were fatally shot while riding a motorcycle around this roundabout. The aftermath left the community in shock, with Elite's mother describing her son as the best child she ever had. Individuals harboring the most intense criminal inclinations or violent tendencies often exhibit an equally profound capacity for love towards their families, creating a stark dichotomy between their public and private personas. Within the sanctuary of familial bonds, their transgressions are frequently overlooked or minimized, enveloping them in an aura of sanctity that belies their actions in the wider world. This paradoxical nature becomes most distressing in the aftermath of their demise, where bereaved family members are inclined to canonize them, painting portraits of virtue that contrast sharply with their true legacies. Such narratives underscore the complex interplay between love and perception, revealing how deep family bonds can obscure the reality of one's character and actions in life versus their eulogy. Coming up, criminals pose as police to assassinate a man in his own home. View Fort, April 8, 2023. The Easter weekend, traditionally a time of reflection and celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, was marred by a surge of gun violence, culminating in the tragic, albeit predictable murder of 18-year-old gang member Aidan McFallen, better known as Bedroom, in Cedar Heights, View Fort. Aidan was walking along this Cedar Heights road when he was fatally shot in the head and neck. The murder of Bedroom is believed to be linked to an unsolved case from March 9, 2023, where Dylan Bastair, also known as Fat Totot, was killed at the View Fort Fisheries Pond. Although no arrests were made, gang members allegedly identified Aidan McFallen as the perpetrator, leading to his targeted assassination on the Cedar Heights Road. St. Lucia recorded a grim milestone in 2023, with 30 gang-related killings, marking a surge in violence attributed to deep-seated rivalries and retaliatory acts among local gangs. Experts point to a troubling trend of next-of-kin reprisals, where family members became targets in a vicious cycle of vengeance, exacerbating the community's anguish and fear. This escalation not only devastates families, but also undermines social cohesion, posing significant challenges to law enforcement and community leaders striving for peace and stability in the country. By April 8, 2023, 10 people had already been killed, including grandparents who had nothing to do with the ongoing feud. Fathers were executed because their sons had been part of other killings. And the cycle of revenge is hot, swift, and callous. On Holy Saturday, gunmen targeted a mother in Shantytown, seeking to inflict maximum pain on her son. In 2022, David Charles, alias Chaser, was killed on Clark Street. The suspected killer was Ethan Joseph, who allegedly fled to Martinique shortly after. But gangland retaliation is calculated and devoid of timelines. On the evening of April 8, 2023 at about 6:30 p.m., Tara Joseph, Ethan's mother, and Ethan's 2-year-old son were inside this dwelling when a hitman came to exact vengeance and to hit Ethan where it would hurt the most. Tara Joseph was shot 4 times, and David Charles's 2-year-old son Ethan was shot 8 times. On April 9th, as Easter Sunday dawned, the violence persisted, this time in Bruceville. 47-year-old Nicole Charles succumbed to multiple gunshots. Nicole had been asleep at her home with her mother when gunmen entered her bedroom and executed her. According to reports, Nicole was fully aware of the impending danger and was in the thick of plans to flee the country. Nicole's son Shane Charles was in prison on a burglary charge. He was also suspected of being part of the critical gang, also known as the Six Gang. Residents describe Nicole as a kind and helpful member of the community. Family members indicated that Nicole lost her life due to her son's involvement in criminal and gang activity while she was making preparations to relocate overseas with 2 of her children. Her troubled son remained in custody at the Bodley Correctional Facility. Nicole did not condone her son's behavior and refrained from involvement when he encountered trouble with the police and others. Despite several arrests, justice remains elusive and the healing process is expected to be lengthy. No one has been charged in relation to any of these tragic incidents. The spate of gun violence over the Easter weekend has left residents and the business community in a state of fear and anxiety. The police made several arrests. However, to date, no one has been charged. On April 16th, reports indicate that the assailants came posing as police when they entered the home of Yannick Kevin Jean of Crownlands, Bexar. Yannick, who went by the street name Menace, was no stranger to law enforcement. On November 21, 2021, he was arrested for illegal possession of a 9mm Beretta. The unprecedented spike in homicides forced the acting Prime Minister to chime in to a bloody conversation devoid of the usual political shame and blame.
I know there have been attempts by some in the society to politicize this. Crime is not something to be politicized because at the end of the day, crime affects every facet of society. And in order for us to really get to the bottom of the situation as it obtains now, we need all hands on deck. And it is not just the government of St. Lucia that must come forward and put forward all the solutions to the current situation as it relates to criminality in this country. There's a role for the opposition, there's a role for civil society organizations, there's a role for the family. Parents have a role in terms of how they orient their children, and that is the only way we will have long-term and durable solutions to fighting crime.
On Monday, 24th April 2023 at approximately 7:55 p.m., the St. Lucia Fire Service received yet another distress call and proceeded to Balata Babono. Upon arrival, they found a male individual identified as 22-year-old Lawrence Dante Maximin with multiple gunshot wounds on the ground. Despite their best efforts, the victim succumbed to his injuries on the scene. Reports indicate that at least 2 others were also injured in a separate shooting incident the same day at about 10:10 p.m. in Grosley. One of the victims, identified as Garvin Benjamin Emmanuel of Massad Grosley, succumbed to his injuries after receiving treatment on the scene. Though the other individual sustained a gunshot wound to the leg, he remained in stable condition and was transported to OKEU Hospital for treatment. Both Lawrence Dante Maximin and Gavin Benjamin Emmanuel died as a result of multiple gunshot wounds to the body. With these 2 fatal shootings, the island's homicide toll climbed to 30 for that year. Psalms chapter 90 and verse 10. The days of our years are 70, and if by reason of strength they are 80 years, yet is their strength labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off and we fly away. For 80-year-old Joseph Harrigan, who would have thought his 80 years would be cut off by a stray bullet? On May 11, 2023, about 10:15 p.m., Mark Bexor was rattled by a disturbing incident as gunmen unleashed indiscriminate gunfire, leaving 3 men wounded in their wake. Initial reports, marred by confusion, erroneously indicated the loss of one of the younger victims, necessitating a retraction from the authorities. Tragically, the true casualty emerged as 80-year-old Joseph Harrigan, an innocent bystander who was struck by a stray bullet while merely standing outside the shop. Harrigan's son Ian painfully recounted the distressing sequence of events. Dina Harrigan, the victim's daughter, echoed similar sentiments. On Sunday, the 14th of May 2023, Harrigan succumbed. The tragic death of this senior citizen, with no involvement in violence or crime, underscores the devastating impact of stray bullets and the callous disregard for innocent lives by criminals who resort to violence to resolve conflicts. Harrigan's senseless death serves as a bleak revelation of the dangers posed by indiscriminate gunfire communities where law-abiding citizens like him become unintended victims of reckless acts. Such incidents highlight the urgent need for comprehensive measures to address gun violence and more severe punishment for perpetrators. When we return, we didn't escape a gunman the first time, but the gunman was relentless. On the morning of Saturday, May 20th, 2023, tragedy struck here on the Shock Highway. What emergency personnel initially responded to as a report of traffic accident turned out to be a double homicide that claimed the lives of 28-year-old Akin Jean-Michel of Marcia and his companion, 27-year-old Windian Blaze, alias Win Titin, of West Hall Group Viewfort. The car they were traveling in, heading south, was riddled with bullets. Interestingly, both individuals were known to the authorities. Windian Blaze had experienced a similar tragedy when her partner Wilson Joseph was shot dead in November 2022 next to her in bed. The motive behind these attacks remain unknown, leaving us to question whether she was the intended target or simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or did the gunmen come specifically for Akin Jean-Michel? As at the time of this broadcast, this double homicide remains unsolved. The Roselle police station doesn't see much action, but their Sunday afternoon would be disturbed on May 21st, 2023. This time, blunt force was used on 26-year-old Anthony Clark. Clark was rushed to St. Jude Hospital with a wound to his face. Despite the efforts of medical personnel, Clark's condition deteriorated and, on Friday, June 10th, 2023, officers were informed by a medical practitioner that he has succumbed to his injuries at the OKEU hospital. As the community mourns the loss of a young life, authorities are left to piece together the circumstances surrounding Clark's tragic death. A post-mortem examination concluded that Clark's death was as a result of blunt force trauma to the head. His alleged attacker, one Millen of Cafe, has not been charged. As the curtain falls on a year marked by unprecedented violence in St. Lucia, the grim toll of 75 killings in 2023 stands as a stark testament to the myriad of challenges faced by law enforcement, the agony of bereaved families, and the pervasive influence of firearms and retaliatory violence which plague our communities. The Royal St. Lucia Police Force, despite their relentless efforts, grapples with the daunting task of curtailing the surging crime. Hindered by limited resources, the complexities of gang dynamics, and the intricate web of community relations, the police find themselves in a relentless battle against an ever-evolving criminal landscape. The low solve rate of homicides exacerbates the situation, leaving many families without closure and fostering a climate where impunity reigns. The pain and suffering of families left behind are immeasurable. Each statistic represents a life cut short, a family shattered, and dreams unfulfilled. The ripple effect of these losses extend far beyond the immediate circle of the deceased, affecting entire communities and leaving a lasting imprint of grief and fear. The proliferation of firearms has transformed disputes into deadly encounters, with easy access to guns escalating conflicts into fatal outcomes. This cycle of violence is further fueled by retaliatory killings, where vendettas replace justice and retribution is sought through the barrel of a gun rather than the halls of a courtroom. It calls for concerted efforts from law enforcement, policymakers, community leaders, and civil society to forge a united front against the scourge of crime that has taken too many lives. Coming up in part 2 of 2023, the bloodiest year ever, we delve deeper into the killings in 2023, posing critical questions to policymakers and various agencies. We examine the measures in place, challenge the effectiveness of effective strategies, and explore innovative solutions to stem the tide of violence. Our investigation will not only seek to understand the immediate circumstances of these tragedies, but also to illuminate the systemic issues that allow such violence to flourish unchecked.